One of
Go
the
ahead.
things I wanted to touch base on was in Steve Austin's email. He started talking about the future land use chapter. And I think one of the things that just kind of got overlooked with the planning process is each one of these chapters that we're like slowly going through is going to build up to that future land use chapter. That's kind of the final one that gets written. And it's based off of the data that we are putting together in each one of these chapters, because it gives us a deep dive into essentially what's working, what's not, what you want to work towards, what is possible. So that's kind of why in each one of these chapters we don't talk about what to do or how to do it for the future, is because it's going to kind of culminate into that very last chapter that gets written. So,
Question about that.
yeah.
Isn't the future land use chapter going to be driven in part by what's happening in Augusta?
How so?
Well, I think, land use planning is, there's a group in Augusta that wants everybody to have to go through Augusta for land use planning. And then there's a group of us that strongly believe in local control. There's also.
Are you talking at the state level?
There's also a complete subdivision law rewrite in process right now. I know that because it was my bill. So that's in process, and I talked with Director Horn a week ago about it. So I would think that whatever stuff we want to do locally, we should be kind of conscious that that's coming. So putting it off until the end is, it's not a problem for me.
Yeah, well, and within it, we do and we don't touch base on statutes and ordinances. Because a lot of that falls within like the planning board realm to kind of make sure everything, and the CEO to make sure it all falls in lines. But yes, I mean, like even with the new housing statutes that have come into play, you can take a look at that when we start talking about future land use and the housing profile chapter in here. And some of that will incorporate into it. And a lot of it just kind of like opens the doors for making more land available for growth, residential growth essentially. So yes, it is important to keep some of that in, but when we write it, we don't necessarily get down to the nitty gritty because of comprehensive plans are usually like 10 years. You do them, a lot of communities do them once every 10 years. And with the number of statutes and ordinances that change in a matter of 10 years, it's hard to put very detailed specifics along those lines. But yes, some of it will come into play. Yeah. Okay. So getting in, I mean, the introduction, you guys can read through and see, I mean, it's just kind of like a brief overview of a very brief overview of the history of the economy here in Madison. If you guys see anything that you feel needs added, that is left out, that you feel is an important aspect, please feel free to let me know. If you think of it after, just email me. We can update it. Then the next paragraph kind of gets into some demographic data. The one question that is there is, The very last sentence is we need to make sure it's accurate. It says together, these income sources shape local spending patterns and emphasize the need for economic and housing strategies that address the realities of a community with a significant share of retirees. From what I hear, that is fairly true. You guys have a lot of retiree-aged community. And so just when we look forward, some of the future land use will have to kind of accommodate that. Okay.
I would like to add something
Yeah.
for the last paragraph in the introduction. I think when doing the looking ahead, so Madison has a designation of being business friendly, and we do have a business alliance that is working on growing. So I don't know if that designation can at least be mentioned in that paragraph there.
Okay, so does the alliance have a name?
It's the Madison Business Alliance.
Madison Business Alliance is built on the principles and framework of a Main Street organization without the encumbrance of a $35,000 Main Street executive director. I know that because I was there.
All right, so so it is a fully functioning.
Yeah.
Okay.
The members are a little low in attendance right now, but they're working on growing. They've had a lot of change.
How many members does it have right now?
25.
I would say that at least received the notification, but for attendance and meetings, it's more like 5.
Okay.
And then they have like the chair. They're a full committee. And then they have businesses that opt in to be
And
a
they
part
pay a
of
fee
it.
to opt in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Annual dues.
Annual dues. Okay, so when you get a chance, just so I can kind of incorporate proper, might be, if you can send me kind of roughly the number of businesses that are currently opted in.
I will reach out to Travis, who's the chair. He's also a local business owner. And
Okay, yeah,
ask some questions and
Yeah, why don't you
CC
send me his contact?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Travis would be a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, send me his contact and then I'll reach out to him and then we'll just kind of get a little excerpt in there describing that.
Okay.
Okay, cause yeah, if it is relatively new, that is a looking forward, like you guys are working on building this downtown Main Street
Yep.
business line, okay, yeah, great. Okay, yeah, again, the next, page 2 is really, summarizing demographic data. It was all pulled off of the ACS, which is the American Community Survey, in conjunction with the US Census. It's all data pulled from that. And then same with the educational attainment data. This one, I mean, with, I feel like there's several colleges within commuting distance from Madison. So I think that kind of helps with the increase in college like the fact that you see, Madison and Skowhegan and all them kind of on par.
Because we have UMA, UMF, KVCC.
Colby, Thomas,
Yep.
yeah.
The other thing is in the last 10 years, is that there's been a paradigm shift in town, because 10, 15 years ago, you graduated from high school, nirvana was, you graduated from high school, you got a job at the mill, and you worked there until you retired. And in 2016, when the mill went out, all of a sudden, everybody had to think differently about what their life was going to be like, and so there was a big push in the school system. Matter of fact, there was a bigger push in the school system than there probably should have been to try and drive kids to four-year college without completely bypassing the community college and the certificates and all the rest of that
Yeah.
stuff. And a lot of that has come back now and really pushing to at least some post-secondary education. Because that's what businesses are looking for, you know.
Yeah. Well,
Even if it's a certificate of something.
Yeah, yeah. If it's even if it's an associate's, a bachelor's, or a certification to show that like you committed to something and you completed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And gained some extra knowledge with it. Yeah. So I think that just looking at this data, it kind of aligns with it. I think I may mention the shift into pushing for colleges in there.
I was struck by figure 4, the unemployment rate. You would have thought that in 2016, when the mill closed, the unemployment rate would have gone up, and it didn't. If this is truly Madison's unemployment rate.
Is it Madison's unemployment rate for Madison residents? Because not everybody who worked at the mill lived in Madison.
Well,
Right.
The figure 4 is billed unemployment rate of Madison labor force.
Yeah, I'll double check the accuracy.
Yeah.
I'll make a note.
I just.
Yeah, no,
I-
that makes sense
I
that
just
in
noticed
2016 it
You
didn't.
know, there was a downward trend into 2019, and
Right.
then it went up in 2019, 2020.
Because of the pandemic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You had the pandemic blip, and then,
Well, and what was occurring during, I mean, she mentions the 2020 blip, but 2000,
Well, we also,
unemployment rose sharply to score upon recession. Oh, the recession in 2008, 2010, okay.
yeah. And then as the recession abated over the course of time, you can see that coming down.
Yeah,
But it would seem to me that there would have been a corresponding jump, if this is truly Madison's labor force.
Right.
There should have been some kind of jump in 2016.
Unless they were not considered unemployed because they took early retirement, or
I thought-
they took the,
payout.
not necessarily the payout, but they offered, college classes for
Yeah.
2 years, and so,
There were
so
a
there
number
may have
of,
been
yeah.
some sort of severance package
Well, either way, I'll
that
take a.
impacted the unemployment rate.
Yeah, because this is based on the Department of Labor, so it would be based on the number of people that filed for unemployment. So if there was a means for those people to not be filing, I think it's worth looking into, and I also think that it's worth including in this unemployment rate, just to kind of discuss like how that did not affect the number, because as far
Well, I
as
think
the
that's right.
Madison's economy, the closing of that mill was a significant
Yeah.
change.
And I think that even if statistically the downslope here in that percentage is accurate, then at least some discussion, like you were saying.
Like an explanation as
Because
to
when
why.
I looked at this the other day, when I got it and I was reading it, my first thought was, well, those guys all had severance and they had this, and this is probably looking at who was filing unemployment, and a lot of them didn't file unemployment. They got their severance, and as soon as their severance was done,
They got a job.
They went over to Jay, because Jay was operating at the time, or Sappy
Sappy.
picked up the best of them, and all the rest of that stuff. So.
Or they were close enough to retirement age after the severance ran out that they
Yep.
could file
Right.
for
Yep.
social security.
Yeah, because there was a lot of them that way that were on the
Yeah.
edge of the baby boomers start,
Yeah.
their retirement starting, so.
Yeah. We'll just just double check the numbers and then try to see if we can dig into like exactly the explanation behind that. That's a good one. So, right, if you go to the page opposite of that, page 4, the last sentence above local labor force and employment, it says, Madison is skewing higher in residents with bachelor degrees in comparison to neighboring communities. So, the question is like, why do you think this is? Is it lower housing, lower cost of living, or just proximity to the number of colleges, or a combination of all? Do you guys have a lower cost of living compared to like Skowhegan and Anson and Norwalk, or are they
I don't
roughly the
think
same?
Anson and Norwalk have a higher cost of living. I think they just have a much smaller population.
Okay,
And the taxes are lower, in Norwalk and in Anson.
so it's not, you guys have a higher cost of living.
Right.
But we're lower on par, we're lower, it costs less to buy a house in Madison than it does in Skowhegan.
And I can say that for in-town properties in Anson and Madison, Madison Electric is a huge benefit.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Because that's a huge difference, coming from somebody who just paid CMP for a year and then moved and came on Madison Electric. That's a huge
That is a huge.
savings.
Well, it is. I know, to transport electricity down a peninsula, I don't even want Delivery fees are outrageous on the coast. I know people who have like $400 or $500 a month electric bills out on the coast.
That's,
Yeah, it's crazy. I also wonder, because we were just talking about this, so you said that the schools here during that time when the mills closed kind of increased their awareness and education and the importance of post-secondary. So I wonder if that played a role in it as well, in increasing it. I wonder if and I can't answer, you guys probably can't answer that because you weren't part of those neighboring communities, but I wonder if they had as large of an emphasis on it with the mill closing, being a neighboring community or not.
I just remember, and it was before this 2024, my kids were in school and it was all about going to four-year college. Colin Campbell was the principal, and you were gonna go to a four-year college, and that was the end of it. And if you didn't, then you might just as well go work in a mill, You can work in a mill, you can work in a shoe shop, but you're not gonna have much of a life. And that was kind of the feel.
And that was Madison High School?
Or you work in the woods.
I was actually in high school when
Yeah?
that was going on.
And
Was it-
that was actually a thing?
Wasn't
It
it a real
was.
push?
It
A
was.
real push?
And what years were this?
I don't, in 2000, my kids graduated in 2002, 2003.
And then the mill closing was around 16.
16,
I was
so-
in high school at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a big push at that time, and then towards like my senior year, that's when more attention was being put towards it being more common to see people to go into trades.
Trades, community college.
When you
that kind of-
graduated?
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
So
'cause
it
that was
started
the-
to kind of level back
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in what year did you graduate?
Last
2020?
year.
2019.
Okay. My oldest graduated in
Yeah.
2020, so it's okay. Yeah, he was born a month after the towers fell, and he graduated in a parking lot with masks on. I'm like,
Cheyenne was a week old when the towers fell, so.
Yep.
I just said to her last week, I have worked at my job longer than you've been alive,
that's funny.
so,
Yep.
much, by years.
Mhm. And you've done very well.
Why, thank you. I'm getting there.
Don't we all say that?
This is black and white, but this will be in color eventually.
Yes, yes.
I had never
So
thought.
I actually have a color copy.
No, that's okay, I
Okay.
don't need to see it.
Okay.
I had never thought of it before, but I was playing a game and they said, for people who are colorblind, because there's a lot of talk about website accessibility. So that you would potentially use like a different symbol underneath each color, so that for people who are
Yes.
colorblind, they would understand that this line, I mean, there's three things, Madison, Somerset, Maine, and then there's three lines, so we think, okay, I guess they go in order. And then the other one, there's five things, but, if there were some sort of easy way to include
Yeah, I
a
can look at
symbol
that.
underneath, you know, a symbol next to Madison, a symbol next to Anson. The symbol can be the color, whatever the box color is gonna be, and then it would just be like underneath those bar graphs going across. Just,
Yeah, like stripes or a hatch or something.
yeah, or like
mixed in.
some, or a
Okay.
star, or, you know, a
Yeah,
half
I'll
circle
see,
or something. I think there's probably a program out there that if you typed in colorblind accessibility, then maybe they would have something. It's not the biggest deal, but I just, you know, we're always trying to be more inclusive.
Yeah, I will have to look, because I know these tables are created within Microsoft Word itself, because you can, and you know, click a table and
Maybe
chart.
add some sort of.
Yeah, so
And-
I'll see if there's an option to do that in there.
And right above the figure 3, a couple of letters are transposed in the word Madison. Just, I don't know if you would catch it, if your word processing program would catch it. Said
Right
Mad-
above.
It says Madcian instead of Madison.
Oh, I see it.
Okay,
I see it.
thank you.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so the next page with the unemployment, it's just like a comparison of the state versus Madison. Or the state versus Somerset County. So as you can see, it kind of travels the same path as Madison. It's just another comparison to show that as a whole, the county, the state, and Madison were kind of on the same path.
I do wonder if the unemployment rate is almost always lower than the state average because our people are older.
It could be.
And we just don't have as many
Right, and
people
that
of
could also.
employable age.
Yeah, and that could also reflect like with the mill closing, because
Yeah.
a lot of them, I mean, because, you know, like, job security and job loyalty doesn't really exist in today's society. Everybody is looking for the next best gig. They'll stay for a few years and then they're like, oh, this is better. Whereas the previous generation, like, you got a job and that was your job.
Yeah,
And-
that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Well, and I know a lot of people like that. My brother's like that. He's been at the same job for 20 plus years now,
Yeah, me too.
you know?
One thing I would be interested in, sorry.
No, go.
Would be, especially since COVID has happened, would there be a way to find out how much of the workforce works from home? Because that seems to be a new trend coming up. There's less actual physical in-person jobs and more working remotely.
Is that one of the questions on the survey?
I think it was.
I think it is.
I think that's a great question.
It is a great question.
'Cause
I know
I've
because 90% of the time I work from home.
And like a lot of people coming into the town office, I've noticed like more and more people are saying, oh, well, I work for my house. Like they work for a company, they might have to leave their house a couple times a month for a meeting or something, but they primarily work from home. And I feel like that changes the dynamics of the workforce.
It does, because with them working from home, they could be employed from a company in California.
Right.
Yeah.
And it changes the dynamic of the community.
People don't leave their houses as much and you're not interacting in the community as much.
Well, not only that, but it changes the dynamic of the community, particularly when you're in a town like we have been in years past, when you have 3 shifts at the mill. And, you got a group of people that go in and work 6 to 3, then you got a group of people that goes working 3 to 11, and then you got the 11 to 7 people, and all the rest of that stuff. That creates the rhythm of societal interaction in your town, just by virtue of how many people are going to work and how many people are not going to work, and that's all skewed by all of these people that are working from home.
Right, and it also, impacts like business flow too.
Yep.
Yeah, because there's certain places I won't stop when I'm out during hours that I know there's gonna be a line of people getting breakfast and coffee at the.
I remember years ago, there was a bar in Skowhegan that the state finally shut them down because you can't sell alcohol after 1
Yeah,
in the morning.
yeah,
But they'd be open for the sappy guys. The sappy guys get out 6 o'clock in the morning, want to go to the bar and have a beer. I mean, this was years ago.
yeah,
But
That's funny.
those are the kinds of things that all of these shifts impact.
it really
A lot
does,
of different things like that.
it does. All right. Okay, so it looks like, it's not labeled, but the next figure is a circular diagram, and it just kind of shows like people that live and work in Madison and that don't live and work in Madison. I don't know if I would be able to, if I can, I think that this would be a good graph to, see about if we can get enough information on, remote workers
Yep.
to
So-
just kind of add.
Yes, because employed outside, does that mean that they're employed by an outside company, but they're actually working from home?
Right, yeah, so I think that if I can find the data somewhere, it may affect that graph. Okay, so the next one, job types, this one is like, this is one of, the areas, just to confirm, if you guys look through this specific section, the next couple sections are the ones that we kind of have to touch base on. But this is data that was pulled, okay? And it was pulled from the Maine Center for Workforce Research and Information. And this is what it's saying, the industries in Maine are, or in Madison are, which are pretty typical. It's pretty typical. And I don't think that's just Madison, those numbers are too high. It's Somerset County. So that's pretty typical. What I would like to add to this section are some specifics about Madison. When you look at that list, what stands out to you, that you feel like are kind of the key workforces here in Madison?
That leads to one of my questions. How do we quantify, or how do we even just acknowledge that we have 200 H2A workers here all the time for Backyard Farms? How do we do that? And they live in a hotel in Skowhegan, and but Backyard Farms can't operate without them.
Right. I think for the purpose of the comprehensive plan, I think that it will be important to mention it. Because they are counting them as workers, obviously.
And they're counting them into that 489 number in 24.
Right.
So those aren't actual Madison residents.
Right. And this is Somerset County.
It's Somerset County, but even
Even
at that,
then.
they're
Right.
counted as workers in the agricultural.
Right. So I think for planning purposes, I think it's important, and I can see if I can get like at least a rough number of how many they have to just kind of say, like, this is something to consider, especially for Madison, in the size of Backyard Farms too.
And I can give you the contact for the general manager if
Okay.
you wanted just information on them, because they are a large industry
They are a
here,
large industry.
here in Madison.
Okay, yeah, if you wanna send me that contact too.
Okay.
But yeah, backyard farms is a good one to kind of incorporate into this, for the job types. And I know Timber HP is here, that's a manufacturing industry, and that falls under the 2,551. I don't, yeah, again, those aren't all Madison workers, it's Somerset
No.
County. So I do know that the manufacturing field in Madison has always been a larger one.
What else do we have for manufacturing?
Well, I think, the water, is the Anson Water District,
Sanitary district too.
the sanitary district?
Those are
Sanitary.
considered manufacturing?
No, I'm looking for other industries to include.
So those would be utility, that would be in the utilities.
Mm-hmm.
Anson Madison Water District, sanitary district, the sanitary district has,
Well, there's also,
60
administrative and support and waste management and
Mm-hmm.
remediation services.
yeah,
But, and then, Madison Electric, that's all utility.
Which they have a small crew. I just learned that recently.
Yeah.
For the amount of service they provide.
So I think that with this section, getting in touch with the Business Alliance will be helpful too, because then it'll also answer my questions for the local business climate, which is the next section. And then kind of get an idea to expand specifically on Madison in this one. Because you guys don't have necessarily like huge retail sections or like big recreation outfits or anything like that, are there?
No.
No.
I do want to mention, we did have 2 businesses open up since our last comprehensive
Oh,
plan
that's
meeting,
amazing.
right on Main Street.
What
We
are
had the, what used to be the Taylor's Drug Store on the corner, is now Goodfellows. And then, what used to be Country Farms is now Madison Square Market.
Is that like a little
It's like a food, and convenience.
Main Street type market with like,
convenience store, that kind
yeah,
of stuff.
okay. And what is the other one? What do they sell? Goodfellas?
Goodfellas is a restaurant.
It's a restaurant, okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, and they're like our only larger sit-down restaurant, right on Main Street now.
Oh, that's good. I'm sure they've been busy.
Yeah.
People were really excited, weren't they?
Yep.
I love that.
Well, and he had a spot, an established business that, in a smaller location in Anson.
In Hanson.
Oh, and he wanted to, oh, okay.
And this,
Did he close
So-
that one, or is this
Yes.
part 2?
yes, no, this is, part 2 is down on 201, also in Madison, in the, you know.
Old Solomeo.
The old Solomeo. After that it was Baldacci's.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Then it was Golden Eagle. Now it's,
Hopefully he doesn't lose what happens when some restaurants go from small to big.
well, he has been, Goodfellas, not Goodfellas, Good and Plenty 2 has been operating a couple of years, and
Yeah.
they're just slammed the whole time.
Wow,
You-
that's
you-
good though.
You go there on a Sunday morning and there's not a seat. Most mornings for breakfast, because they're open till 2, I think.
Yeah.
He
Well,
was
and I
on-
don't know the specifics, but it is more like a family,
Yeah,
more than one, like, one family member runs one,
Yeah.
and another family
yeah.
member
The
runs
father
the
runs
other.
Goodfellas, the
And-
son runs the one down there, and then the son and his wife are helping with Goodfellas, getting that up and running and like that. So it's, I think they'll be successful, so. But it is,
But
That's
it's
awesome.
bringing businesses back onto Main Street instead of
Yeah.
empty buildings.
Because
yep,
they were
Well-
empty for a couple of years,
Yeah.
and right on the corner. in
That's
the middle
good
of
because
town.
sometimes rebuilding your main street can always be a challenge. Or do you guys have a current downtown plan? Is that what you guys are basing all of this off of? Is that what the Business Alliance has going, like a,
No.
No.
This is just,
Downtown
it
plan?
happened at the same time, it was
kind of like,
nice.
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's awesome.
Part of the problem with downtown is most of the storefronts have been converted into residence, which is typical in small towns like this.
Yeah.
When your storefronts turn into residence, then you lose all your ability to generate downtown.
Yeah.
I've been watching it for 25 years.
I mean, I love walking like main streets for places, like whenever I travel, that's like one of the first things I do with my kids is we find Main Street and we walk it. It's like one of my favorite things to do. You just get to experience like the culture and like of what is happening and where you're at. That's one of my favorite.
Yeah, and, I remember, the Buzzies, and then there was a insurance place, and there was all of these different, a couple of insurance places. The old Hollow Log, which is now the gun shop,
And the trophy shop.
and the trophy
They're,
shop.
they have rolled over some, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are pretty common though from the towns I see. Stuff like that, I see that shift a lot.
We also don't have zoning, so.
No, I have noticed that.
So a lot of people have businesses that are not on the main street because we don't have zoning.
Right,
Right.
So, it's gonna make the main street look different,
right,
if, good, bad, or indifferent,
right.
Yeah.
because that is not in place. So somebody can start their own business and not have to have a storefront on the main street or adjacent to the main street
Right.
in order to
Right.
open.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, it can have like pros and cons to that because it just kind of gives people more opportunities to have businesses other places versus what it costs to have a business on Main
It's a
Street.
big investment
It
in
is a
in
big
a brick and
investment.
mortar
Yes.
establishment. That eventually when you can get to that, then that is wonderful, but it is a big impediment to
Right.
small business.
Yes, it is. So it has its pros and cons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, I am gonna touch base with the Business Alliance to kind of elaborate a little bit on this Madison's local business, plus what you guys have talked about. I mean, it's pretty much summed up with like, what we kind of said, not super expanded, we can expand a little bit. The one piece, tourism is not a major, part of the economy. My question about that is, you guys have a beautiful lake. Does that not get tourists?
When I read this, I was like, really?
Yeah.
I
Seriously,
think
I think
that we are an amazing
Completely
tourist
disagree with that.
Attraction because we have Main Street. You have to go through Main Street to get up to Sugarloaf, which anybody who is visiting Sugarloaf has to pass by
Yeah.
us.
1 second, this is my son. He's been home alone all day. 2 seconds.
See, I'm
gonna
with
pause
you.
that?
I think, if you're here on the weekend and you sit downtown and you just watch the traffic, whether it's winter or summer, as the cars come through in the wintertime.
13-year-old boys.
Cars come through in the wintertime, everybody's got skis on the roof, and they come through in the summertime, they've got boats and campers and all that stuff. That's huge. Then you have Lakewood Theater,
Yeah.
Lakewood itself, Lake Westronson itself. We have Abenaki Campground, we have Jellystone or whatever they call it.
Oh, is that
the
one
old-
out here?
What's that?
The Jellystone one is out here?
Yeah, on
Just before
201.
Down on Yonder Hill.
The
Okay.
old Yonder Hill.
I think maybe that phrase was included, erroneously because a lot of the lake properties are private. So it's not, but a lot of the lake properties that are private do Airbnb. I
Right.
know a couple of people who, travel, they're home for the shoulder seasons, as they call them, and they travel in summer and winter and Airbnb their properties because it is right on the lake.
Well, we got two campgrounds right on the lake. You got Sandy Beach, which is operating marginally as they can, I guess, and Abenaki. So those two are right on the lake, and then you got Yonder Hill, Jellystone, down on 201, obviously Lakewood Theater is a huge attraction.
Yeah.
And it would be a tourist attraction because it operates in the summertime. Then, you know, those little cabins, I don't know, I mean, those are some are privately owned and they're Airbnb them. I was at the theater, I was at Lakewood Theater Saturday night, and I recognized two people
Wow.
in that whole auditorium that were sitting there in the audience, and the two people that I recognized live in Fairfield.
Wow.
Didn't recognize a soul from Madison.
They're probably all from away.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing, like, in the summertime, people going up rafting, Madison's right on the route for that,
Yep.
or going up to Canada for like the truck pulls or
So
whatever
we're not
people
necessarily a
visit Canada
destination
for.
for tourism, but we certainly do get a share of people coming
Yeah.
through.
I remember historically looking when we were building the Business Alliance and all the rest of that stuff, was looking at, we have a ton of traffic coming through town, how do we get them to stop? We have to create the reason for them to stop.
That's a Disney movie.
And I think,
Correct.
what may be missed in that is Madison is a lot bigger than a lot of people think.
Yes.
When people think Madison, they may be thinking of just like the in-town area here. They may not be thinking of like the Lakewood Theater and the
No,
fact that
they
they're
don't.
in Madison, and those are places that people are stopping.
Well, and all the land between the lake and the river is Madison.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know,
So thinking
people
about
think
the
of the
full-
village proper, or whatever, they're, you know, as Madison, but it's the whole, it's all of that.
Because the entire lake is in Madison, and then if you go to East Madison, the other side of the lake, it's, what is it, 2 miles, 3 miles to the Cornville line. You're still
Right.
in Madison.
You're still in Madison. Now, does East Madison see more people stopping and staying because, like, they were kind of like built right on the lake, like that downtown of East Madison's kind of right on the lake? Do they see a little bit more tourists that are staying versus passing through? I mean, do they have more places for people to stay over there?
The Airbnb side, I know that a lot more properties are doing Airbnbs now, as mentioned. So I think that does create the initiative to stop. So even while there's not like the storefront areas,
They're so close to Skowhegan. I even have people who use the library who say, oh, I don't, you know, I shop in Skowhegan because I live so much closer.
Right,
But, you know, they come to the library,
right.
you know, once a month or once every couple of months, because it really is a jaunt to get to
Yep.
this side of town as opposed to getting to Skowhegan.
Yeah, because there's no straight path. Well, there is,
Well,
but,
there is, but it's covered with woods and a few
Right.
houses.
right.
So,
And if you're in East Madison, are you gonna take a right on White Schoolhouse Road and come 8 miles to get to the center of town to hit Hannaford, a small Hannaford, with limited selection? Or
High
are you gonna go
prices.
3 miles down to where you intersect with 201, take a left, and right around the corner is the big Hannaford?
Right, that makes sense, yeah.
and
And a Walmart.
another thing for tourism, I think the ATV access has increased a different type of tourism. And I know there's a lot of opinions on that, but it's still a tourist attraction because it's creating that initiative to stop on the way through.
Does that ATV turn into a snowmobile trail in the winter?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
the whole of it? Or does some of it close?
I think it's partial. Some
Partial.
Okay.
remains the same.
Because it
some-
goes over like some trestles and,
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so that would keep some winter people coming through too.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
if we have snow.
if we have
as long
snow.
as we have snow.
Uh,
But the ATVs are coming
do they
through
come near downtown?
all the time, yeah, well,
And we have an ATV access
Yeah.
map.
we've created
Oh, do you?
the ability for them to come to Fonzo's and come up to Irving and get gas and come CM Brown, and now they'll be able to go to Goodfellas and the Madison Square Market there.
Okay.
Just
So yeah,
by
it does
virtue of-
create
yeah.
business.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. No, that's good to know. I had a feeling because I mean it may not equate to like Rockland fluctuation of summer people, but I feel like for what Madison is, it has a decent fluctuation. I wonder if there's a way we can find a number to kind of put with it. I'll see if I can do some digging and find some kind of like tourism number, because I know like that's one of the demographics that summer towns look at.
I would imagine it would be difficult to track that because people who live here also travel and do things in their own community during the
Right.
summer. So
I
are they
think-
considered tourists or are they just, going to the lake?
Right. Well, and I think some of it too is based off of, I mean, and it depends on how the data is collected, but like Airbnb data, hotel data. But does Madison have a hotel?
No.
No.
Do they have bed and breakfasts?
We
Is the
have
colony, did anybody do anything with the colony, is that a private residence?
colony,
The Colony Inn?
the country corner.
No, the Colony Inn out at Lakewood.
I
I don't know.
You
don't
don't know?
know.
She never heard
I
of
live in Madison, so I don't have to go to.
It probably was
Colony.
before I was born, Jack.
No, no, but I remember the Colony Inn, you used to, it was very exclusive, you could stay there and it was very expensive and all that stuff. That was back when one person or one entity owned all those little bitty cabins and you could rent them out for a week or, I don't even know how that's done anymore. I think they're private, each one of us.
Well, and
is
they
private.
do run a brunch out there. I
Yep.
don't know if it's still the Lakewood Theater people or if it's somebody different. They
Same
do
people.
run a brunch
Yeah.
seasonally,
Yeah,
so. One of the reasons that I was told that we don't have, I mean, we could use a hotel or a motel, but correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, there's no water and sewer, beyond where Heights and R&B Home Source, there's no lines for that?
there's no water at 201. The water line stops at the tower. And the sewer line.
So it's just wells.
Yeah, the sewer line stops, I think, at Ward Hill.
So in order to do a big, or even relatively modest occupancy for
Yeah.
a new build, you'd have to, there's no water
That's
and there's no sewer lines.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So that has been a big deterrent for building that out in that area.
Okay. Well, I mean that.
I don't even know if there's property to purchase, but one of the reasons why, if somebody wanted to come in and build a hotel, they'd be like, well, we can't build it out there because we don't have water and sewer lines.
Right.
And then it's that question of who provides the water and sewer lines? Does the town absorb the cost in order to get the hotel and that back and forth, and then it gets dropped for another 4 or 5 years?
And that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's a huge expense.
It is a huge expense because it's all underground.
And there's been conversations for years about running water all the way to 201. And then a few years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it was, when they built the jail, the jail is on Madison Water, but the water is purchased from Skowhegan.
Because it's not
And we
very
have-
far away from the line.
And we have,
Right.
and we have a pump station that pumps it from Skowhegan into the jail property because it's Madison.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, when they did that, they couldn't come to some kind of agreement to just have Skowhegan run the line. Madison said, no, we want the water. So now we buy, and I know because I'm on the water board, we buy water from Skowhegan to supply the jail.
That's interesting.
And I don't know whether they have septic up there or whether they have, if they're not tied into the sanitary district,
No.
so they must have septic or they're tied into Skowhegan septic.
Yeah.
It's Skowhegan sanitary, but I don't imagine they are, cause it's across the town line.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, I mean, but those are, you know,
Those
like,
kinds of,
like Julie says, we've talked for years about doing it, but the cost to run water out there to 201 is just brutal. And then you run water, then you gotta run sewer and, you
well, and
know.
that was why people didn't have cable from certain companies for a million years too, because
Yep,
it just costs a lot of money. This is a rural state and this is a rural town. You know, if you look at the main street, it looks, you know, oh, there's a lot of people here, but then
As soon as you step off Main Street, it's
it's
scattered.
dispersed.
Yeah,
And so
go down
everything
there at 9
costs more
o'clock at
money.
night.
right.
9 o'clock at night, you can lay down in the middle of the road and,
Nobody's there.
yeah,
Don't do that.
don't do it.
But if you did, Jack says you'd be safe.
Hey, I've seen people do it, so.
I'm sure you have.
Sure, it was when he was going to the Colony Inn.
No, that's funny.
Yep.
All right, so moving along, the next question aligns right back to, I'm gonna do some digging into, like home occupations, small businesses. I'll talk to the Business Alliance about that. And then, you know, working remotely kind of falls into all of that. So I'm gonna do some digging on that.
So-
Then,
So home occupation, you're talking about people having an occupation that they
do
work
from home. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Because when I read that, I was like, empty homes, homes that are occupied?
No, it's businesses, like someone
Okay.
runs a business. Oh, so it's either working remotely, running a business out of your home. Yeah. You know, and then we get into the cannabis business. There's a brief paragraph about that. And then talking about retail shops and dining and it talks about the limitations. I think I will mention the limitations we just discussed, with this water.
Infrastructure, it's not just, I mean, I consider water and sewer to be right up there with bridges and roads.
Right, water,
So
sewer,
the
infrastructure,
outlay of
the
money is-
inability or the lack
Yes.
thereof, like the resources to spread it, can it be, like, who's responsible? So I think that within that paragraph, that is some good information, to include as to why it's limited.
Well, I think not only does it limit our commercial opportunities, it limits our residential opportunities as
Right.
well.
It
I mean,
does.
not a half a mile from where we're sitting right now, I know where there's 4 lots that are in-town lots that you'd never know they were in town if you were there, that have not been able to be sold because they don't have water and sewer.
Right,
And it costs a lot of money to put water and sewer in there, and the developer is not gonna put water and sewer in and then build houses, cause they're gonna end up on the short end of the stick and nobody does something for nothing.
nope,
So, down on Winter Street.
Winter Street, down this way.
Yep.
So the next one, Madison's downtown. We did touch base on that. It says is in a state of transition, so that transition is the Business Alliance. So,
I would say, you know, the hardware store just changed hands.
yeah.
They did a major upgrade. People are pretty loyal to Rainey's and, you know, to the local eateries that are on.
Yeah.
And, you know, just because I don't use a particular business, I think that people in general tend to think that, well, I never go in there. I don't think anybody goes in there. And it's, you know, obviously they're getting enough business to stay in business.
Right.
So I don't think that the downtown it certainly has bounced back from its lowest point, I feel.
You're
I mean,
right.
we have more buildings that are filled with businesses that are open than a few years ago.
Agreed.
Right. Which is good. So it is growing.
And it is walkable, mean, you drive through Madison at lunchtime, you're gonna see a bunch of people on the main street. As Jack said, 9 o'clock, not so much, but the businesses aren't open, so.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right. That makes sense. So TIF funds, it states that there are 2 active TIF districts in Madison, one Backyard Farms and the other is the Woodland Senior. Are there others? No. No, okay. So that's all correct. Regulation of economic development, I don't really have any questions on that. If you guys have anything that stands out to you that you feel is missed. Well, actually, same for the last 2 sections, economic growth projections and the regulation of economic development.
I thought the backyard TIF ended 2030. Because you guys gotta be negotiating that. They're gonna be,
The credit enhancement expires before the actual TIF district ends.
oh, okay, okay,
So we're doing the credit enhancement agreement next year.
okay.
And that's negotiable. But the TIF is always longer than the credit enhancement agreement.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
I do agree with the part where it says that the growth is likely when one larger business that comes in. And I think that if Timber HP can continue to grow and have more workers come in, that will provide encouragement to continue filling the storefronts on Main Street and
Yeah.
help with business.
Yeah, I do too. And I know we were talking about Timber HP at one point in time and how majority of the people who work there are not from Madison. So I wonder if there's a way to like make a connection between Timber HP and the schools, like the high school, to just kind of have them be part of career days or just, have them come in and do presentations. Not that everybody wants to go work in a factory, but at least it's here, it's an option, and people know that it's,
Well, and I think it's relatively good money.
right, I think it is too.
I
And you
mean,
don't, and I don't,
Certainly
I
more
think
than
for,
a lot of professional jobs,
right,
per hour.
right,
Is manufacturing work more physically difficult? And yes, but I think that people who worked in the mills, certainly not 100 years ago or even 50 years ago, people who worked in the mills did not get big money.
No.
But at one point, people who worked in the mills made very good money. My brother made $80,000, and that was 20 years ago,
Right.
or more. And that was huge money. But you have to remember that Timber HP is on the line. It's at the river. So it's not a surprise that some people are gonna live in Anson and work there, or live in Norwalk and work there. And right now, they have a smaller pool. And I think that happened with the regular mill as well. I think they had 250 workers, and, maybe 80 of them were from Madison. I'm just ballparking these figures.
I think you're right, Julie, because that was always something that was a concern, that there were the big money people that worked at the mill, none of them lived in town. They were, because they wanted the Waterville lifestyle and, or further away.
Or they could afford it.
And they could
Right.
afford it. But then the other piece of it is a lot of those shift workers, they were the ones that could buy places in Emden. They could afford to buy places in Emden that other people couldn't afford to buy, so they'd buy places in Emden, and they'd live at the lake year round,
Right,
because it was an easy jaunt to come down to work.
right.
right,
My brother lived in Anson and walked across the bridge
Yep.
to work.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
So it is difficult to always tie industry to residency,
yes, that makes sense. Yep,
especially in a town, with towns as small and as closely situated. Because Anson Town Center is literally across the bridge.
Yeah,
Um, And then, you know, North Anson has another town center.
yeah,
Even though they're part of Anson and they have a different zip code. It goes back to that agrarian roots type thing where people had little locations.
yeah. That makes sense.
For this question about recreational opportunities, historic architecture, civics and civic events and so forth, you have access to the prior comprehensive plan.
Yes, I do.
One of the things that I remember, because I was on the board, I was on the select board when the mill closed, was we actually sat in this room and the Board of Selectmen said, we are not going to be Millinocket. We are not going to be Bucksport. We are not going to be, East Millinocket when our mill closes. And part of what we did in that process was inventory our assets. What things do we have in Madison that we can utilize to try and make sure that we don't die like Millinocket? And Tim was absolutely wonderful with that stuff, and I would suspect that in the prior comprehensive plan, you will find that inventory of assets that we have, and we've built some new assets since then, where Weston Woods, which is huge, in terms of hiking and, being able to walk in the woods and those kinds of things, the ATV trail.
Right.
That's another huge thing that's happened since then.
Yeah.
There's a number of things that would consider that back then assets that are currently continue to be assets, and more things to pile on top of that I think are really, important to make sure that we acknowledge that they're there.
Yeah, I can access that.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the one Tim wrote in 22? Or are you talking about the one that was adopted by the town in 14?
14, I would think.
The 14?
That's
Okay.
before the mill closed.
Because that would have been right when the mill closed, or very close there too. Because that closure happened in 2016, but it started in 2013 or so.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can look that up
Yeah.
easily, and I'll make sure I made a note to kind of look that up and incorporate those.
Well, and Millinocket had 1,400 people working at their mill.
Yeah,
And we had about, I think, 250.
yeah.
So, I mean, their mill was gigantic, was the
It
entire
was.
town.
Yeah.
But it was the economic driver for Madison because we got, what, $5 million in taxes a year?
Yeah.
And it paid for a chunk.
Paid
Right,
for everything.
right. Your school district, everything.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Nope, that makes sense. Yeah. So I don't have anything else for you guys.
Okay.
Do you guys have any other questions on this one? This one was pretty straightforward. Yeah. The final copy of the history one, is gonna come out here soon. I'm almost done. There's just a few bits. And now that you gave me this book, some of my questions might actually be answered in that book.
good.
So that will be awesome. So I will work on getting that out.
There were a
coming to-
couple of pieces, and we can talk about this afterwards, but, for instance, we don't have an antique light fixture at the library. I'm not sure what kind of wood the trim work is, so I don't know if we necessarily need to have those specific things.
Yeah, I can
And we
clean
could just
those up.
say, period specific details and leave it at that.
Yeah,
And that way, it's not as specific, but it's also not
I think-
mistaken.
some of that is from just like Google research.
Right.
Which isn't always accurate, as we all know. So having conversations like that is great because people that are actually in the buildings and go, yeah, that's not a thing
Yeah,
anymore.
we bought that light in 2006.
We're like, that's not a thing anymore. It may look antique, but it's not. Yeah, those are always good to have. And there, like I said, there are a few questions in there, that I have, so this will come in handy because it'll probably answer the few that I have left.
I doubt.
I think so.
I think we're good.
I think we're good.